ever feel like you're chasing a moving target, or like being good enough always feels like it's just out of reach? I get it. Growing up with a father who was an addict, losing a parent at a young age, and battling obsessive-compulsive disorder throughout my life has taught me much about shame, guilt, and always trying to be good enough. But what if being good enough is a myth? What if your worth is not something to chase or try to measure up to? This is the Enough Effect podcast, a space to rewrite the narrative, share stories, and discover the power of being you exactly as you are. Hello, my name is Abby Tabilos. I'm your host, and welcome back to the Enough Effect podcast. This is episode 18, which is so crazy and exciting. Thank you so much for being here. And today we're going to talk about how scrupulosity OCD and other kinds of OCD, obviously, are really good at making everything mean something. And what I mean by that is that it can make each of your feelings mean something. And you feel like your feelings are all saying something about you, right? And when I think of this, I think of an experience I had when I was quite young. And a child got up at church and was speaking to the congregation. And the child said, "If you stay close to Jesus, you will be happy no matter what happens to you." And I've heard that said quite a few times in different fonts, of course, but my scrupulosity OCD brain really took that and ran with it. And I know other people with the condition have similar feelings to me, which is basically because if I was close to Jesus, I could be happy no matter what. Because I'm not happy, I'm not close to Jesus. Therefore, I've done something wrong and I need to repent, and then I'll be happy. So suddenly, this is overgeneralized to I'm feeling sad or angry or whatever, and I need to repent. The only acceptable emotions are the positive ones, because those mean you're close to Jesus, right? We can see how that's problematic, but it's such a real struggle for me literally to this day. And I also think it's important to mention that at some point in my OCD journey, my OCD also took this a step further and started to make me believe that if I'm close to Jesus and if I'm obedient, I can prevent bad things from happening. Because if God can make me happy no matter what, I'll be happy because bad things don't happen, so I just need to be obedient all the time. Or this bad thing will happen to my family. Yup. Welcome to Scrupulosity OCD, right? And I've been thinking about this, obviously, and I read somewhere, sometime, I'm going to credit it in the show notes, of course. It said, "Pain is not a punishment. Pleasure is not a reward." Pain is not a punishment. Pleasure is not a reward. So to retranslate that, pain is not a punishment for failing to be obedient. And pleasure is not a reward for being good enough. I still have to remind myself of that to this day. Whenever I'm feeling anything that my OCD decides is not acceptable, I naturally feel an instinct to start reviewing my past and finding out where maybe I did something wrong, or I'm unworthy, or I need to repent for something, or apologize to someone. It's a good reminder for all of us scroops out there that emotions are just emotions. And yes, God can give you peace and Jesus can give you peace. But sometimes life just sucks. And sometimes you just have OCD and the peace isn't going to get to you right now. And that doesn't mean that you've done something wrong. It just means that life just sucks sometimes. And especially with mental health, sometimes feeling God's love and peace in the spirit, it's not even a thing. I actually had a therapist once that said sometimes it's like you're in a room with a bunch of black tar on the windows and the sunlight can't get through. And once you get the tar off the windows and start to get to a better place mentally, then you can start to feel the sunlight or God's love. That doesn't mean that you have tar on your windows because you put some tar on there every time you sinned. It just means you have a mental health condition or you're going through a hard time. Yeah, that's not talked about enough. People always just assume if you're righteous enough, you'll feel God's spirit. And that's just not always the case. Truly. You can be in a holy place and not feel the spirit for a multitude of reasons. And only one of those reasons is that you need to repent and you're not worthy out of a million. So remind yourself of that. Your emotions don't mean as much as your OCD wants you to think that they do. Sometimes you're just an angry person because something happened, or sometimes you're just sad or you're just exhausted. And we do what we can. The fact of the matter is that these core beliefs that I have and that I'm working through is just because Scrupulosity OCD is really good at taking something someone may say with good intent and twisting it to be the scary thing and malicious thing. OCD can literally find evidence for anything. Literally evidence too. Like you could convince a sane person to believe them. That's why it's important to run towards your values. And at the end of the day, I'm becoming a person who has learned to value believing that sometimes you just don't feel God with you. And maybe I only feel God with me once a year. And that does not mean anything about me. And it doesn't mean anything about you either. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will talk to you next week. Thank you for listening to the Enough Effect podcast. If you enjoyed listening, it would mean the world to me if you would subscribe to my channel, like this video, and comment your favorite thing from today's episode. Plus, don't forget to hit up my social media at abstabs, ABSTABBS on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook for daily inspirational content to remind you that you can live a life built upon the resounding belief that being good enough was never an endeavor worth pursuing. Lastly, check out my show notes for any resources mentioned in this episode and my website, where you can find a list of all the ways I would love to work with you. See you next week, and don't forget that you are and always have been more than enough.